Hello, Hola, Konnichiwa, Salaam, Ciao Namaste. Peace to all. This is Soulology, the science of the soul. And what we are going to talk about today is about what religion has done on the planet Earth. And what exactly do I mean by that? What I mean by that is in a sense of what you've seen happen on this planet due to religion and maybe some of the effects it has caused over the years as time's progressed and how we act and the way we behave and so on and so forth. So first of all, one of the first things that religion has done on this is it has allowed us not to believe in ourselves. And I want to go over 3 parts of what I mean by that. The first part I'd like to go over is the fact that we have to follow others to feel comfortable enough to even believe that we ourselves have a chance. You see, in our society, including myself, we follow other people who have prestige or power or status that we feel we believe to get to where we say we desire to go. We don't believe in ourselves because we're afraid to go first. We're afraid to do something unknown. So we look for other people around us to do that work for us. And in order to push us much further than what we feel inside our own hearts, we doubt that, that we have the capability to do such said things. And that's what leads actually into number 2. We doubt we're capable of doing such things. In our entire existence, to some degree anyways, in our history, and we'll get to that actually as part of this, but we have planted seeds of doubt, believing we are not strong and mighty, but that there are things among us that are much higher in a sense, that we don't have the capacity to be the best we can be, that we aren't smart enough, we're not strong enough, we're not clever enough, we're not loving enough, that we could never be those things, even though we've had many masters on this planet who have proven we can be those things. But we, again, leads back to number 1, we follow them. Instead of believing that we can do those things too. We feel, in a sense, incapable. Even in my experience, for years I felt like I was incapable of doing things for myself without having it go through someone else to see if I am even capable of doing that. Because one of the things you have to understand at the end of the day is that we judge others, which is number 3, that are on their own path. And this is why you see how it goes, simply like a stream of what I'm stating right now, that we get into this motion of following people because of our own doubt within ourselves. So we judge others who are on their path because we ourselves are not on the path we desire. You see, again, what you see in others, you see within yourself. If you mock others and think they are not great or good enough for whatever they are dreaming or desiring to create, we mock them knowing deep inside we are not where we desire. This is an interesting thing that we constantly do, and we don't ever think actually about it, because if you look at history, Many people have created things that people mocked, but every time it has created something beautiful. But yet we've mocked them for creating it, believing that it's impossible to get there, or it's impossible to get here, that you could never do those things. Or even when you are desiring to create a business with people around you, that it's impossible because of the fact that most people, I hear this too often, is I'll think about it, or I'll do it when I see you gain your success. I'll do it when I see you grow. What do you do when that person grows? You then follow them after mocking them. We have not learned how, like a child, to stand, or a little baby, we've not learned to stand on our own 2 feet and grow ourselves. Take those risks to get to your dreams, or to be financially free, or to just simply take the risk of truly loving someone unconditionally. Yes, maybe you'll be afraid you might get hurt because it's something new, it's unknown to you. Maybe it's trusting certain people. Maybe it's working on your own intuition to know who to trust and who not to trust. Yes, this world can be terrifying, but it can be beautiful. But the hardest part for most of us is making that decision. And the reason why we don't do that is because most of us are not choosing. We are allowing something else to choose for us. For example, we're allowing ourselves to, for which is the next part of what I'm stating. We look for information outside of ourselves. We allow ourselves to look for information outside of ourselves because we feel we could never choose what's necessary for us. And how exactly do we do that? I'm going to go over another 3 parts of this. Through ancient texts, of course, that we follow. We believe these texts to be, in a sense, of what we call holy, that they are everything, that this is what guides us to where we need to go. And this is information outside of you. The problem with this information that most people do not realize, due to the fact that many ancient books have been rewritten over and over and over again. And on top of that, you have to remember that these books have been written by many other people, from he who said she, who said he, who said she, who wrote these books in creating what you see in today's society. But these books have also been tampered with several times. And you must understand also that many of what is stated in these books, when you talk about priests, pastors, ulamas, are being interpreted in that person's own way. The problem with that is not everyone is alike, just like your DNA. Each person has a format of how they think and how they see things, their perception of life in this world. That being said, if you don't see it the way that person may see it who is teaching it, then it might be different to you. So it's not about what's right or wrong. It's about what works and what doesn't work for you, in creating your highest version of who you truly are in any sense. Who are you being? What are you choosing to create? That's something that we don't look within ourselves for. We are often not choosing what works for us. We're choosing outside of ourselves of what people have told us is right or wrong, with what you call creator, or of course something higher above you in any sense. that makes up these rules and regulations to everything. This is what we choose to believe. On top of choosing that, you believe history tells the truth about everything. But you do not realize that it is his story. This is someone else's story you are listening to, and until you look within yourselves to do the research yourself, because even for me, when I was young, a few years back, I was reading ancient texts, and I was a very religious person at one point. But due to constant searching, even when I was religious, there were things that were not adding up. Now, this does not mean I'm not trying to persuade someone into being one way or another, but it is good to be open and understanding about what you are reading or listening to, instead of following something blindly. It's as the saying goes, the blind leading the blind. There were times I would go into a church, and during my frustrating days, I could never see why I could never get out my own issues and my own dramas, and I was going through so much, but yet when I was there, I felt good, and then I went right back into this same thing. It was like it was the same rotation over and over again, and it wasn't changing. And the only reason it changed is because instead of looking for that information outside of myself, I started looking for it within myself. And started working towards loving myself, growing myself, and understanding me for me, and what works and what doesn't work for me. Instead of what works for that person works for everybody. And it can work for everybody if you make it happen. And that is true. If you choose to make it happen, yes, you can. However, if you are detailed to knowing how you are and how you work, it may not work for you. But of course, it's all a choice, one way or another, no matter what you choose to do in life. And that's where we come in with the systems that are put upon this planet. Speaking of what I was just saying a minute ago, that you can make things happen if you so choose to, even if it's something that does not fit you. These systems that are put in place can be very competitive, can be very rude towards each other, and it can go based even at times off of our own religions and thought process, because you have to understand what you see within that is what you will see within yourself of creating who you are. If you read that information, if you listen to that information a lot, you will be that information. You will judge those, even though it might not be beneficial to judge people. You will have winners and losers, because even in books they have winners and losers. So you will take that into consideration. These systems in play, including the governmental systems and whatnot, even have a little bit to play with all that. So we follow these systems due to the fact of the same output that we see in religion at times is we follow something. Whether it be an entrepreneur, whether it be, again, a pastor, priest, or ulama, whether it be following leaders, great leaders, whether it's following religious leaders, whether it's following anyone, it shows we don't have belief in ourselves to change our situations or our society, but that we need someone else to do it for us. But you have to be willing to change it. If you truly desire something to be changed, as the saying goes, sometimes you have to do it yourself. And of course, you can get help. But you have to choose to create that moment, to get help and do it yourself to create that. But it starts first with you. You have to be willing to change self in order to change those situations. And last, we're usually taught fear instead of what truly is necessary, love. One of the ways it's taught is just simply with fearing, again, what I was saying earlier, something more powerful than you. A higher power that is all fearing, all powerful. But you have to remember, in some stories, for example, there is an evil of some sort. But the question is, if there is an evil of some sort that's laying them out, and it's making a mockery of people, and getting them to a point where they can go to horrible places, why couldn't such a being stop all this? You see, what I'm using is God logic. It would be unnecessary to do that because it contradicts what that person is. We desire things to be absolute, but yet that is not an absolute being in any sense. It is very relative because it is choosing to give fear even though love is necessary. You can't have it both ways. You can't be scaring people and trying to love them at the same time. If you love them unconditionally, you love them for who they are, you grow them and evolve together. If you grow in fear, you create that anger, you create that hate, you create that malice, which causes destruction. But you can't have both because it becomes a tug of war. You have to be willing to change off of love, off of what you've been seen and shown in some few instances. You talk about many of your masters again. Many of them were of love. Not hate, not malice, not fear, but love because they knew how important it was to connect to the whole, which is all of us. So, in conclusion, what have we learned? What has religion done on this planet? It has simply brought us to not really believing in ourselves, that we are capable of things, growing seeds of doubt, that we have to put our faith in others or follow others to have such a belief system. And many times that belief system can be very powerful, give or take how that person is. That we look for information outside of ourselves instead of within. We read these ancient texts and not realize we're following his story instead of researching on our own what truly is, as you call, the story, the true story in a sense, or the information that creates true story or history, as you would call it. And not realizing that through these systems you've created that you haven't realized you've been following these people. But on top of that, the fact that many of times we teach fear instead of showing how important it is to teach love. But I want to add this on so you are not confused as to what I'm stating. This does not mean religion is a bad thing. For many, it can work for them because it can be a factor that grows their unconditional love within themselves. You have to understand again, it is what works and what doesn't work for a person that creates who they are. It does not mean just because you are this way that you are unjust and unfit to have anything in life because you do not believe, or that if you do believe you'll have everything. It is the fact of what works and what doesn't work, and to grow each other's happiness, peace, and love within each other, no matter who you are. So, remember how beautiful, how amazing, how magnificent you all are as the gods, the goddesses, the creators within. So we're ending it here, but to everybody out there, have a good morning, a great afternoon, and a fantastic evening. To everybody out there, peace and namaste.